Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
What is the collective consciousness? What happens when the collective consciousness awakes? Mission Evolution Radio Show is coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. With us this hour to uncover what happens when the sleeper awakens is John Burgos. John is an ascension guide and internationally recognized public speaker who thrives when collaborating with provocative spiritual leaders, bringing light to the shared power of the awakened collective consciousness. Having been initiated to connecting with higher states of awareness and realms beyond the physical, John's call quickly became to be one of service. His website, johnburgos.co. John, thanks so much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Always nice to work with you. So, John, let's start out with what's your educational background?
I went as far as a couple of years of university and decided that path just wasn't for me. I couldn't quite fit into the system and I didn't get the point of it. I wasn't desiring to be an engineer or a doctor or anything that really specialized in a particular vocation. And so I thought that real world experience would benefit me much more than a traditional education would.
You know, I think a lot of us are finding that at this point because it's so restrictive being so specialized in a way.
Well, and again, if I had decided to go into a specialty, of course that educational system makes sense, but it just wasn't my path.
I hear you. Well, let's start by unpacking your bio a bit. It says you've been initiated into connecting with higher states of awareness. Where did you receive that initiation?
Oh my goodness, really, I believe my whole life's been an initiation, but there were different pinnacle moments throughout my life that where something shifted within me eternally. Visions that I've had and visceral experiences that I had at 9 years old when I had a visitation from another realm, I'll call it. That was just undeniable. For a 9-year-old to have that type of awareness and experience was, it was telling of something else that was coming through. Like so many people, I've been extremely intuitive and could feel things as they were coming up. But visions that I would have of people in my life passing away and that coming to fruition a few days or a few weeks afterwards were part of that initiation. Many people have gone through initiations, waking up their empathy also through trauma, through harsh experiences, through to learning to hold a certain event in their life where over the course of their lifetime, they learn to develop compassion from it was something that was also arising. But then I had deep awarenesses and experiences where I was taken into spirit and I was being taught in lucid dreaming and even states of awakening from beings that are not earthly. They're difficult to describe other than as light beings and angelic. And these types of initiations have really continued through various stages of my life.
So has it had you wondering at times if you're losing your mind?
Of course, absolutely. And that's so much so. And I think the losing the mind part just comes also from a place that we're taught that it's supposed to be from this place of lunacy that we would even begin to imagine that, because who are we to be spoken to from higher realms of consciousness? Who are we to say that we could be like Moses at the Sermon on the Mount and to receive direct communication from God? And that limitation that's been engendered into us through the eons from a culture that would want to separate from their authority doesn't make sense to me and to a lot of people now, as we can tell by the type of um, followings that we have through our different broadcasts and what we speak about and these type of connections. So yeah, it would seem that I was going a little bit crazy, but the truth was that was my ego and my mind trying to fit it into a world that didn't embrace it. But the truth of what was happening felt like much more normal than the reality that I was living in this human form.
So, do you feel that the information that you were getting was directly from God? And if so, what do you consider God?
Ah, I think, well, I know the information that I was receiving were through different expressions of God in various ways. There have been times where I feel like I have been directly in communication with God, and God, the definition of what God means to me has shifted over the years. Um, as I've surrendered more into the experience rather than trying to accumulate a wisdom or a mastery in whatever is coming through. There's really an innocence that is showing up for me recently, more so than ever, is that God's everything. God is this conversation. God is when I get to hug my daughters and my grandson. God is in the blade of grass that I'm walking on. It's profound in my experience and the way that my heart feels like it's opening, um, when I can get into those places in my day and just realize the divinity in everything that I'm experiencing.
So, if we take it from that viewpoint, if God is everything, that means God is good and evil as well. God has our best interests in his hand, and he doesn't, or she, or it. So, how do you know that the information that you're getting is useful given what you want to create in your life?
Yeah, well, I would agree. God is it all. How could it not be? Um, and it's all part of experiencing totality and the creation. I know that what I receive is of a higher benefit, not higher from a hierarchy, but of a higher vibrational tone that is engendering an expansion of love rather than a contraction of it. Is there divinity in the contraction of love? Absolutely, because it leads us to different expressions of where we have separated from the totality. I know that I'm in the higher expression of it when the information that I receive is compassionately, empathically serving other people, and where they're thriving, where they're awakening to their capacity to hold and experience that love and to share it with others rather than to deteriorate love or to contain it in such a way that others would be deprived from it.
So, have you been able to, of course, when when the death happened right after you had the dream, that's one validation. But have you have other ways of or other experiences of validating the information you're getting from higher expression?
Oh my God, so many. I can tell you one that took 18 years to unfold. Um, and another one that took a couple of years to unfold. The first one, um, I was engaged to the love of my life. I was 23 years old, and just knew that she was the one. And we had planned an exquisite wedding, and we had people traveling from other countries, from different parts of the United States to come to our wedding in Houston, Texas. This was back in 1990. Um, an amazing wedding, and the reception was just it was gorgeous and so much fun, and I was having a blast. I was in bliss in the ceremony, just knowing just how perfect, our union was. And about halfway through the reception, everybody's partying. I'm taking a walk by myself, and I hear this voice says, "Go find a room to sit down in by yourself." And there was nobody around me. And it was
Okay,
an
so let me
internal
stop you for
voice.
just a minute. What do you mean you heard this voice? Was it in your mind's ear, or did you hear it like somebody's talking to you?
I heard it in my mind's ear, as
Okay.
loud as viscerally as you speaking to me here right now.
Okay.
Um, and so I heard that my whole body went into this reaction where goosebumps filled all of me. And I knew I had to listen to this. Like, I think I'm going to go find a room to go sit in by myself, and see what's happening here. Um, I make my way through the restaurant in which we're having our reception, and I find the office manager's door. I open it up; it's empty. I walk in, turn on the lights, close the door behind me, and find this big leatherback chair that I sit in. And the second I sit in, I take a deep inhale and exhale, and I hear a voice. You're going to be married 18 years. It's like, okay, and who are you? Now I'm having conversation and being dubious, really skeptical about what this energy is. Because I've glimpsed these type of experiences before, but this was just right in my face. And this was before I considered myself spiritual, before I knew what a chakra was. I grew up very religious. I say that we grew up in a mystical Catholic house. Um, but anyway, so I'm sitting in the room and I hear the voice, "You're gonna be married at 18 years." Like, who is this? And I hear again, "You're gonna be married at 18 years." And then I started, well, what am I supposed to do? Annul the marriage? I am in love. There's no way. It's like, I don't know who you are. Thank you very much. And we're done. And the voice never came back. Um, Went back to the reception and we flew off to our honeymoon the next day and everything was wonderful and didn't pay a lot of credence to what had come through that day. Um, we had a beautiful marriage. We were best friends for the longest time. Um, Gwilda, at 17 years and 51 weeks into our marriage, because of various things that had come up, and obviously we're going in different directions, I asked for the separation that I absolutely knew was the end of our marriage. And the voice um, had not crept into that decision that I heard almost 18 years before and in any part of this. So that was, I couldn't make that up. And that was definitely one way that is definitely confirming that I have, and then I know that we all have um, connection to realms, places, and beings that we can't see, but if we can attune to,
Well,
that we.
it's time, John. I'm going to have to interrupt a little bit here because it's time for a station break. John and I will return very shortly, so don't you go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
I've been broken, shattered, cast to the wind. I am scattered upon the wind. I've been broken, shattered, cast to the wind. I am scattered upon the wind. I've been broken, shattered.
Just because they're dead doesn't mean they're smart. With us this hour discussing information from disembodied spirits is John Burgos. His website, johnburgos.co. John, we were just talking about an experience you had whereby the end of your marriage was predicted by a disembodied voice, if you will, at the reception of your wedding. And that sounds pretty literal. I mean, the words were words and they were literal. They weren't metaphorical.
Mhm.
And you actually then experienced it. between the time that you heard the voice in the first place and the time that you had the validation of the fact that it did end in that amount of time, did you hear that voice again?
For that particular situation, no. Have I heard a similar voice or had similar experiences in different ways? Absolutely. Throughout the course of those 18 years. Some of the times, looking back, I wasn't aware that it was guidance or a voice or an impulse that was influenced by a non-physical being. I didn't have the awareness. It wasn't part of my life that I lived this way in these etheric realms. But as I look back on it, I relive certain experiences in my mind. There's no question of the influence that was available.
Does this come across like, you're just minding your own business, daydreaming maybe, and all of a sudden you just get a knowing or you hear these words and it could easily be your imagination?
It it feels more like it's situational. It's not just random that I receive something now. If I receive an inspiration to create something for business or get inspired to take a left turn rather than a right turn to go to a particular place and I run into someone I otherwise wouldn't have, then yes, that's in the moment. But for the messages for a situation, for example, like with my ex-wife and my marriage, that seemed to be very specific and appropriate for where I was.
What do you think was the purpose of telling you on the eve of your wedding, if you will, that it was going to come to an end in a certain amount of time?
I've asked myself that question several times, and the conclusion that I've come to is that it was preparing my heart and my ego for a change that I might be resistant um, to, to perhaps ease some of the shock that may come in if it were to happen all just immediately, comparatively speaking. Um, and I also think that it was demonstrating to me a communication that was inviting me to build trust with. Um, so, how do we know that those experiences aren't just random and I'm not going crazy? It's because they keep presenting themselves so accurately over and over again. And so it's building an intimacy of relationship with spirit in that way. And spirit's demonstrating, let me demonstrate to you how this communication is here to show up in your life. Let me demonstrate to you the integrity in which this information is given, and let's build a trusting relationship together because there's an opportunity to create something bigger than you might anticipate.
You say these messages come from non-physical beings. What do you mean by non-physical? Are they in a different dimension? What do you mean by non-physical?
Oh, they're non-physical because I cannot see and hold them in my reality right now. If I could reach through the airwaves and give you a hug, that'd be a physical reality. But they're non-physical because they don't appear in physical form. Um, I know them sometimes as ascended masters. I am very connected to an energy and an awareness of Christ. And of course, I grew up Catholic. And when this started waking up in me, I actually pushed away that Catholicism. I wanted nothing to do with it because of different things that represented to me that didn't feel aligned for a truth that was waking up in me. But there was an embracing of that Christed energy that started coming in. So an experience I had when I was 9 years old that was so profound. It was unquestionable. Was very related to the lineage of Christ and history. The non-physical also shows up in ways that feel like it is a wiser, more intelligent, more connected, less egoically inclined, higher self version of myself. And I can feel different aspects showing up in different ways. But like we started the conversation in the beginning, Gilda, is it's all an emanation of God. It's all, for me at this point, an understanding that these different representations of non-physical beings or voices or dreams or inspirations that come through um, are all a manifestation, of course, of that divine source.
You so far we've talked about you getting information or messages that related to you and to your life and to the people in it. Do you get any other kind of messages?
I do. And it really depends on how I show up. If I'm sitting in a private session with a client, I'll get direct knowings about certain things. I'm not a medium in which I can tell you what your late grandfather or grandmother's name was, or where you were born, or the city they got married in. I'm not an evidential medium in that way. But I do get glimpses and visions, and how it comes across for me is that somehow I can tune into someone's potential and see um, how we can guide so they can live a more harmonious life and really come into a greater sense of fulfillment into how they're experiencing what they're doing in this world. It's not that they have to do anything big, but how they're expressing and receiving love, and then what they're doing with that.
How can you personally tell another person's potential?
You can just feel something that is awakening. Think of it like a pro baseball scout. You can see that someone has some raw talents when they're doing a particular thing. Um, Somehow I have an uncanny ability of just sensing that someone can ignite something within themselves that they haven't quite just realized yet.
Now, when that information comes to you, is it always in session with somebody that's paying you to be their client, or does it come to you from people in your general world?
I see it all over the place, and I try not to keep it on all the time. Um, but I have a tendency to really tune into, especially when someone's desiring it. There's a sense that somebody wants something more and they haven't quite been able to activate it, and that's when it really lights up for me. If someone has no interest in it, or if they're already walking it in different ways, then it's not something that I necessarily tune into. I don't really need to.
So if you tune into somebody that hasn't come to you for that purpose, what do you do with the information?
Well, we start unfolding what's happening in their life currently. Um,
I'm sorry, I'm talking about just somebody random. Maybe your kid's teacher or um, a neighbor.
oh, I don't do anything in that. It's wonderful to witness it, and sometimes just witnessing somebody else and holding space for a greater expression of them to come out if they choose to bring it out with you is all that I do. But I don't do anything intentionally without getting permission or acknowledgement that someone wants to engage in that way. That wouldn't be honoring.
So do you have control over? You just don't turn the thing on until somebody comes to you for work.
I think I have discernment. Um, and sometimes someone won't come for work, but I'll offer a suggestion, or will spark a conversation that lights up something that they didn't think about, or it gives them a sense of, wow, someone's actually interested in this, and I'm so curious about what else is possible by just exploring.
So you say you work with spirit guides. Can you share the process that can help our audience attune to these higher forms of intelligence?
That's such a great question. I wish there was a particular formula that I use. I can share that I've learned, and this came very quickly, and I think it's also the way that I was prepared ever since I was a child, because again, I had to be so tuned into emotions and situations. I grew up in an in an environment where there was a lot of abuse and alcoholism. So I became very sensitive um, to energies because I had to be prepared on a continuous basis. So what I learned to do from a very young age, and it serves in the work that I do now, is to really step out of my own way, to really quiet so that I can listen to the field without an expectation of what I need. Because I grew up in those environments, being really still, trying to attune to the expectation of what the abuser needed to calm him down, trying to tune into the expectation of what the person that was being abused needed so I can comfort them. And to listen in very nuanced ways. So getting out of our own ways and expectations of outcomes or judging what we think is right or wrong in a particular situation is one of the most basic and important steps when connecting to spirit in that way.
It's easier said than done, though, isn't it?
It's practice. It's practice. And of course, we're human. We have preferences. And God, it's, I want the best for everybody that I work with. So, I'm cheerleading, but also guiding in a way that if I can see someone is going down a road where they're going to cause harm to themselves, of course, I'm going to say something and to advise in a particular way and to strongly encourage.
And now, again, we're talking about people that have come to you for your services knowingly versus a neighbor. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So far, and we're just about need to take a break here, but so far you've told me that you need to be able to get out of your own way in order to do that. And on the other side of the break, I would really like to talk about more ways that the individual can actually connect with the disembodied spirits you've been talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay. John and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So you stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
Searching through the night. One people, one nation. Searching for the light. One people, one nation. Coming from the stars. Brilliant feathers of an unearthly hue glide by on the edge of his dream. A whisper of touch, an unheard song. Whose bird takes flight, prompted by his broken heart. Fly high, sweet phoenix.
Can E.T. really phone home? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing our ability to connect with disembodied spirits and get guidance is John Burgos. His website, johnburgos.co. So, John, we were talking about how the average person, some skills or whatever, that we can start to get this kind of guidance for ourselves. And so far, you had said that you have to be able to get out of your own way. So what other advice do you have for us?
Yeah, and a great way to practice getting out of our own way, it's really going into ourselves. And it's overstated, and there's a practice to do it in which really helps tremendously, and that's meditating. And people approach meditation in different ways. It's trying to sit still, walking in nature, going through different practice, following something that's guided. What I find is really effective that helps us to get out of our own mind's way is to sit in a quiet contemplative state. And if you want to sit in lotus position, wonderful. And to take deep inhales in, hold at the top for a couple of seconds, and exhale all the way out and hold at the bottom for a couple of seconds. But as you're inhaling and exhaling, you want to roll your eyes up. kind of like the saints did when you look at the pictures of some of the saints and you see them looking up towards God. And do it in a way that way with your eyes closed. And that what it actually does, it stills your mind. And as you focus on your breathing and you feel your physical body relaxing in the inhale and the exhale that naturally occurs, there's a connection that starts to be engendered within you. And in that stillness is when the inspiration, where we have the opportunities for those voices or visions or nudges to come in from places that we all have access to, but we haven't quite slowed down enough to attune to them in a way that we can. And this requires, like any relationship that we want to be close to, it requires intimacy. It requires taking the time to want to be present and get to know what's available from the other side.
So what's the science behind that? What's going on with your body, with your mind, when you do the meditation and you slow down and focus on your breathing and put your eyes to heaven? What's going on internally that makes you more available for information?
Well, I'm certainly not a scientist or a doctor, but I am aware that as we get into that place, we go from a parasympathetic response to sympathetic response. So we're slowing down our nervous system. The chemistry in our body are producing it's again chemicals that put us in a deeper state of relaxation, that allow in that our energy field to go wider than be contracted in our physical body. We're also putting our attention, focusing it on a point that is not looking for a particular outcome, but being present in an experience. And again, the body responds to that. It's you start going closer into a theta state of consciousness again, which is slowed down and more receptive to information.
So closer to the dream state.
For sure, yes.
Okay. So it sounds, just from what you've been saying, it sounds like our world, the way we've developed it, our artificial human world, is full of distractions to keep us away from this very state. Do you think that's by chance or by design?
I think the beautiful distractions are exactly that. They're beautiful. Again, I know that they are, again, all aspects of the divine. The problem is that we've gotten caught up into chasing the divine rather than being with the divine. So presence, the slowing down, it's the consumerism, the not only we've gone beyond the need to survive into a need to acquire beyond anything that is necessary for our survival. And it's thrown our nervous systems in chaos. And it's that chaos that's really detracting us from the connection that we have and really enjoying the complexity that this life brings, again, in the multiple reflections and iterations of divine that surrounds us everywhere.
So on that same note, what is your take on the status of the world right now?
Wow, there's so many different versions of the world. And I can give you two different takes. There's the take from my perspective and the communities that I immerse myself in and that I guide and am a big part of, is that we're in a beautiful evolution right now where we're expanding in consciousness and waking up from a deep sleep that we've been in. And that awakening is taking the world through various iterations of growth. And growth isn't always comfortable. as anybody who's going through personal development, we have to face our uncomfortable places sometimes. We have to be with the shadow and realize the divine within the shadow to really ignite the light within us as well. To gather that momentum and decide where we want to put it as far as our attention and energy and what we want to create with that. So from my point of view, the world is in a beautiful place of realizing a new possibility that it hasn't known, at least in my lifetime, according to the history books, through eons.
So you mentioned awakening from a deep sleep. Is this a one-way ticket, or is it cyclic? In other words, what I'm trying to ask is, why did we go to sleep? Have we been to awake before?
Well, we've had to have been awake before, because the point of origin that which we came from and the innocence from that had to exist in this plane at one time. When it existed, I can't tell you. There's stories of Atlantis and Lemuria. There's the utopia of Camelot, if you will, in different ways, when in its lightest day, when everything was functioning and thriving, after the darkness, or certain aspects of folklore and history that would point that there was a utopian state before. I can tell you from my experience and during this lifetime of 58 years in this lifetime, the experience of over-consumerism, of separation, of starvation, or where we ignore the suffering of one person so that another one can benefit, that's all part of a great sleep. That the sleep and where we're not honoring the divinity in each other.
Do you think this awake and asleep cycle is a cycle, that we come awake and then something happens that we go asleep again, and then something happens that we awaken again?
It certainly feels like it's gone through cycles, yes.
And what do you think causes those cycles?
The need to experience something beyond what we're currently experiencing. The need to, how can I make this better? Or let me take just a little bit more from myself to see what happens then. And there's a seduction in that. It's enticing, it's curiosity that goes amok, because it gets out of balance whenever we start consuming more than we can hold.
Do you feel like there's something within the cycle that is supporting us awakening at this time, or is it just random?
I think there's a connection into a greater aspects of ourselves, and for us here in human form would be our connection to Gaia, to Earth as well. It's gotten out of balance, and the climate changes, all the dumping of consumeristic products that are going into landfills and into ocean, the plastics,
Sounds kind of like cancer, doesn't it?
Well, and that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's become cancerous to this earth plane. I had a beautiful communication. It was a vision when I was actually on a massage table, that very loudly and clearly a voice of what felt like Gaia came in, and I was welled up, actually sobbing on the table on the messages that I was receiving. And she's like, John, this was birthed from a conversation that was had a couple of weeks before about the destruction of the earth. And the voice came and said, John, you can't destroy me. humans cannot destroy me. I am but a mirror of what you are doing to yourselves.
Oh,
And
isn't
I
that
love,
profound? Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and I love you so much that I am willing to go to the brink of my light to demonstrate to you what you're doing to yourself so that you can finally awaken and choose something different. But you'll never be able to destroy me. And my love for you is greater than any suffering that I may have to go to ensure that you awaken into what's possible for you.
Interesting concept, that awakening, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and we're just about to go into another break here, but is everyone given this opportunity more strongly at this time, do you believe?
Absolutely. Yes, we're being surrounded with the opportunity, with messages, and the opportunity shows up, and here is a beautiful path that's opening for you that's going to facilitate something great. And the opportunity also comes up when we have challenges coming up in our lives, because all of those opportunities give us choice, and it's what we do with those choices that matters.
Well, staying in victim always keeps us innocent, doesn't it?
Right.
Innocent of any wrongdoing. So it is, again, that wonderful moment when we do need to take a break. On the other side, we're going to start talking a little bit more about the collective consciousness. What is it? What is it? And how can we participate? Please stay with us as John and I continue to explore the collective consciousness and awakening. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
Searching for the light. One people, one nation. Coming from the stars. One people, one nation. To heal this earth. May you walk in beauty. 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 Beauty above, beauty below.
What is the collective consciousness? And is there such a thing as a collective unconscious? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with John Burgos. His website, johnburgos.co. So, John, there's the question. What is the collective consciousness?
I love the second question also. But the collective consciousness is our agreement as to, as a whole, what we're agreeing to navigate. Again, we've collectively agreed that the sky is blue, and that is a certain spectrum of color. That's a collective consciousness. We're all in agreement with that.
So let me back you up a little bit. By we're all, do you mean us humans, or do you mean the trees and the sky itself that makes itself blue, or what do you mean us?
Well, our perception of it as humans, as
Okay.
far as the collective consciousness, yes.
Okay. So humans are the collective consciousness.
As far as the egoic human is concerned, yes, we are the collective consciousness.
So where do
But-
these disembodied spirits fit in that?
The disembodied spirits fit in as guides that that are here to teach us and even influence. And again, we can talk about those disembodied beings being either good or bad, light or dark, whichever end of the spectrum that you want to put them in. So those guides influence and demonstrate to us choices that we have available as to what we're going to agree upon as a collective, as a whole, as humankind.
So what is the power of the collective consciousness?
The power of it is that it takes us on a stream of an experience. So in the US, we just had an election a couple of months ago. And there was a collective that decided that it was going to lean towards a Republican agenda rather than a Democratic agenda. There was a flow of a wave that said, this is the direction that we're going to go. And so there's like that majority, there's like that pivot point that directs the consciousness in a particular direction.
So, like a majority.
A majority, yes.
Okay. So, in other words, all of us participating in the collective consciousness only have so much power, and the majority rules.
We have so much power in as far as the rules, the general rules of engagement that are going to navigate certain aspects of our experiences. What we do have influence over is our choice within how we interact with those rules. So we can rebel against, we can agree to it, we can choose to take that opportunity to explore something new based on those rules of engagements, if you will. But we are at the agenda of the collective votes, if you will. Again, we wouldn't be going through global warming from a spiritual perspective unless the collective had chosen to go that route.
So, how does this go down to the individual? Do we have the power to change the future to something more desirable personally?
Well, we can change our personal experience based on the parameters of the collective agreement. But if I'm living in California and I'm living the most spiritual life and I'm serving others in what you would consider the highest way, can I avoid my house catching on fire? Not necessarily. And I think those are just synchronicities and situations that unfold that are far bigger than we can comprehend, because we're not just here to experience and to stay in the most blissful state of beingness that we have and just keep it to ourselves. From what we receive, we're also giving. And it's from that cyclic nature that something bigger within our own human consciousness gets to evolve and to recognize.
So, if we go back. If we go back to the California, and we won't prevent your house from burning down, right? Let's go back even further to the beginning of our conversation today. And you said that you can get messages that will give you a heads up. You're going to be divorced in however many years, or somebody is going to die within 24 hours. How do those two go together?
Oh, that's such a mystery, right? For example, if I could have received the message if I were living in California that my house is going to catch on fire, even in a particular month, or around a particular time, and I could avoid living in that house or maybe even purchasing that house altogether. It changes my experience, but it doesn't change the collective experience.
But if you're part of the collective, surely it changes the collective experience as well on some level, doesn't it?
Well, there's ripple effects in every choice that each individual makes. And that's why I'm really guided to, in the work that I do, to really engender with the people that I work with, the awareness that all of our actions and choices, no matter how big or small, have ripple effects. They have implications. And if we can learn to choose as best we can in our human capacity, to really consider not just ourselves, but those that we love, and to take the time to slow down and consider our choices and align with love, with compassion, with sympathy, and for the highest good of others, then our choices are going to have significant impact on the collective in the most positive aspect, where we're not harming each other. at war with each other, destroying the planet. We make different choices. Our small choices create big tsunamis way down the line.
So, if we're becoming more awake and more aware of the collective consciousness, does that give us a stronger vote?
It definitely allows us to hold a bigger field of potential. Um, what it is if you're swimming in crystal clear waters and other people are that you're connected to are threading through mud, if they see you swimming through waters, they're going to want to know how you got there. They're going to want to learn the map. It's not about you needing to influence it. Is you can't help but to influence when you're living um, from that crystalline state, if you will, from the crystalline waters that you're swimming in.
Well, it's that time in the show, John, when I get to ask you, what's your mission?
My mission, oh my God. My mission is to be devoted to the highest form of light that I can access. Really, my devotion to Source. Um, and I thought it was in helping others and serving and all that's wonderful and heroic. But I can't really do that in the way that my heart really has wanted in myself, unless I know how to do that for myself with my own relationship to spirit. And as I awaken that within myself, then I can guide others how to do that as well. And that's truly my mission.
So, your mission is your service.
It is.
Very nice. Very nice. So, here's a good one for you, John. Let's bring it all back down to the pavement. How does one become awakened?
The first part of becoming awakened is to actually realize that you already are, and to start. And from that place, we can start pulling the weeds of what's obscuring the light from coming into what's already there and ready to blossom.
So, is it a matter of what part of ourselves or what reality we identify with?
It's looking at our lives. How am I waking up in the morning, and why? Why am I choosing to be in contraction or in anger or resentment or in fear? And how can I choose differently? If I'm really already awakened, which I would tell you that in a lot of ways that already exists inside of you, then what choices can I make that would align with the truth of it? Why do I choose suffering rather than choose to see this aspect of myself that I have access to?
So, is there a way? We've been talking about the limitations of our vote in the collective consciousness, but as we personally become more awakened, is there a way to rise above, beyond the collective, to where we aren't necessarily as strongly influenced by it?
There is a point of separation that we have to go to just be in our own influence or surrounded in an environment that provides a nurturing environment for that to grow. But we can't truly separate from it. We have to come back into the world. But when we come back into, again, the density of that reality in which we thought we had left behind, we're coming at it from a different perspective. We're coming to understand it from a place that we've experienced being asleep, if you will. We've experienced the suffering. We've experienced lack of financial resources or horrible health or relationships go wrong. And we've come to the other side of it with an understanding, forgiveness, compassion, and the discernment not to repeat the pattern again. When you understand that you can see those things so clearly that you won't be seduced back into those versions of suffering, then we emerge differently. Then we come into influence as to what's possible instead of running away from what we fear may take us back.
Well, John, time flies when I'm working with you, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. We are, though, out of time.
Ah,
So thanks so much for being with us.
it's wonderful being here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Our guest this hour has been John Burgos. John is an ascension guide and public speaker. To find out more about John and all he has to offer, visit his website, johnburgos.co. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But please, be sure to join us right here next time. This mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to our rapidly evolving world.